Thank you. We're going to start reconvening our Tuesday meeting here at Los Gemadores in Bedford, Texas. Our next speaker is Soloman McCluster. He's an industry icon in direct selling, and he has over 30 years of experience in direct selling as a distributor, as a direct selling software consultant, and a business strategist. Soloman has built and guided organizations to global success. And his presentation today is going to cover crypto and the opportunity it presents for those of us who want to position ourselves. And today specifically, he'll be talking about a new ecosystem wallet and coin that offers more than just potential appreciation. I believe he does live in this area and has been here a few years, right?
Yep.
So I've known Soloman about 5 years, I believe, and his company that he works for I've been associated with for 20 years. So I was over there talking about another subject, and Soloman happened to mention to me what he was working on and asked me if I'd be interested. I said yes, and I became an owner of a wallet through this presentation. And so today's just going to be the introduction, and then after today's event, if you wish, Darren is going to be able to send you any follow-up information if you have some interest. So Soloman, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. Everybody doing today? Good. Good. By show of hands, how many people in the room are familiar with cryptocurrency?
Can't hear you.
Speak into the mic.
Yeah, I think you're live now. Yeah, you're on.
You just have to hold
Good.
it. Yeah,
There you
go.
That's good.
Yeah. So, how many people are familiar with cryptocurrency? Cool beans in the blockchain. All right. So did you realize that the greatest transfer of wealth is happening right now? It is happening right now, and most people have no idea what is going on, right? Because a lot of people are utilizing digital currencies right now without even realizing that you're utilizing a digital currency. And every time you utilize that digital currency, there's money being made, transaction fees, things of this nature. And what's happening is, as we move closer and closer to being totally on the blockchain, people are becoming more and more familiar with it, and a lot of people are using it and don't even know that they're using it, right? And a lot of people think that it's not going to affect me, but I can guarantee you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that it will definitely affect you. Let's talk about what the blockchain is. The blockchain, in its simplest format, is just a ledger of transactions, right? Every time somebody sends money into a wallet, out of a wallet, on the blockchain, you can go to Binance Scanner and you can see it, right? So it gives total transparency. Now the problem with that is that our government does not like total transparency, right? And they don't like the fact that you can have a wallet that they cannot get into, right? There are two types of wallets out there. There are centralized wallets, which we all have. If you have a bank account, right, you got a centralized wallet, meaning that they can come in, they can take your money, they can take your money out, they can freeze you out of your own account, right? In a decentralized wallet, you are essentially the bank. You hold the keys to that bank. They can't come in and take anything out of your wallet. Excuse me?
A little bit higher up here. Yeah.
They can't come in and take anything out of your wallet. When you hear people say my wallet got hacked, nobody has ever hacked, literally hacked, a decentralized wallet. What happens is when you set up that wallet, you will get like 12 to 15 words that are random. And when I say random, I mean freaking random. So random that nobody's ever going to figure those bad boys out. And if you think I'm kidding, you was watching the news a couple of years back, there was a guy that had a certain amount of Bitcoin in his wallet. It's like $11 million worth of Bitcoin in that wallet, and he couldn't remember that password, and you only get 3 attempts, and then it totally locks you out of that wallet. So the only way anybody can ever get into that wallet is if you give them access to your key. And what they generally do is send you something, like my wife got something the other day, and it looked like it came from MetaMask, and it said that, hey, your wallet's been suspended, we need you to give us a call, right, and help us unlock your wallet. Well, first off, MetaMask never asked you for an email address. So I'm like, boom. They ain't got your email address any place. So what that is phishing, and if you call them, they will definitely drain your wallet, right? Now, the government doesn't like this because you're in control. They can't come in and take your funds. They can't freeze your funds. They can't do anything to your funds, right? That gives basically the people back the power to basically control your finances, your money, your whatever. Government does not like that. Give an example of that. You might remember, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, marijuana was the worst thing in the world. Until the government figured out how they could get their hands in the pot and make some money off of it. Right. At that point, not so bad anymore. And if you know any potheads, the only thing a pothead is ever going to do if they break into your house is basically eat you out of the house and home, eat everything in your refrigerator. That's pretty much the only thing a pothead is going to do to you. But as soon as the government figured out how they could benefit from it, now, I mean, you got weed dispensaries all over the place. So that is right up there. So if you look up here, in 2024 alone, trillions of dollars moved through the blockchain. $6.9 billion of that was fees collected for moving your money through the blockchain. A fee on the blockchain is very similar to, as a matter of fact, is the same thing as a transaction. Now, some people still question whether or not Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is a real thing. They question whether or not it's here to stay. All right? Companies like Zelle, cashapp, Venmo, particularly cashapp, Zelle, these companies, you can actually use crypto right now on their platform. So it's not going anywhere. It is not going anyplace. It's here to stay. So, the Federal Reserve. How many people here have heard of a program called FedNow? All right, so you know the deal, right? So as they say they're not moving towards that direction, FedNow is basically their version of the blockchain on a centralized platform. All right? And even the people who have never heard of FedNow and don't understand what it is are getting sucked into it because they have a plan to make everybody who has a bank account participate in that program. And it goes something like this. They're going to require the banks to use their rail system, which is the FedNow system, if the banks want to continue to get money from the Federal Reserve, this, that, and other. And by doing so, right, that gives them the ability to force everybody with a debit card, a credit card, whatever, to basically be on that platform. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about people who are already using digital currency, but they never think about it as digital currency. All right? As an example, I'm pretty sure everybody here has got a debit card or a credit card. Most people don't even carry cash anymore. All of those things happen on that particular rail of FedNow. And by them forcing the banks to use it, that means they're going to force everyone else to use it. Which basically means that they got easier and better access to your funds, because the upside of that, from their viewpoint, is that because it's transactional and transparent, they can see every transaction, and on FedNow system, they know who that person is that made that transaction. Versus on the blockchain, if anybody in here has, how many people in here, by show of hands, have a crypto wallet? So you know you're talking about a long strand of numbers, right, that identifies that crypto wallet. And you can look up right now any crypto wallet out there on the blockchain and see what's in that wallet, what multi-currencies they have in that wallet, see the balance in that wallet. What you cannot see is who owns that wallet, and what you cannot do is figure out how to get money out of that wallet. So we are definitely headed in that direction. Another example that we're headed in that direction. Pretty sure everybody knows who this guy is. Did you also know that now we have basically a crypto digital asset stockpile as of March 6th? So if you think that it's not here to stay and the government's not moving in that direction, you got another thought coming, because we're definitely moving in that direction. So peer-to-peer, that digital revolution is here. Peer-to-peer, we have become accustomed to using things like cashapp, Venmo, Zelle, where I can send you money and you get it instantly. Those companies are making an absolute killing. Every time somebody sends some money, every time somebody moves some money, those companies are making an absolute killing. Zelle processed $3.6 billion in transactions in 2023, surpassing $1 trillion annual volume. All right, Cash App, 57 million users. I mean, the list just goes on. Now, the question then becomes, if you're going to be using these things, and we know that everything is going towards them, how can you position yourself to take advantage of that? All right. 2025, which we're in right now, all right? Experts predict worldwide that there will be an increase of 142,000 millionaires, averaging 389 a day. And a significant portion of that is going to be a direct result of the blockchain. A direct result of the blockchain. And also, if you take into consideration, one of the major drawbacks to mass adoption of blockchain was that unless you're astute, most people don't know how to convert that crypto into money that you can spend immediately. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. Like, for instance, if you have a Robinhood account and you got a MetaMask wallet, you can take some AVAX, send it over to your Robinhood account, and as soon as it hits that account, you sell it. And then you instantly withdraw it and deposit it into your bank account that you have attached to that Robinhood account. Now, people will say, hey, I'm going to get the $10.99 at the end of the year. No, you won't. And if you do get a 1099 at the end of the year for those transactions, it's going to be something very minimal because you didn't leave it in it. There was no profit made. As soon as you hit that account, you sold it. That is an easy way to get that money out and convert your crypto into cash. But as in most things, as technology advances and as the government figures out that they're leaving money on the table, they will figure out a way to solve that problem. So they realize that A, there's no way that they could track every crypto wallet out there. There's no way that they could target every individual out there. There's not enough hours in the day, not enough people employed by the government to do that. So what do? You'll notice now that Visa, MasterCard, if you go to someone like Miracle Cash, and they were written up in Forbes, Miracle Cash is introducing a Visa, MasterCard debit card that will allow you to basically shop any place with that card and spend crypto. And it will convert it on the fly. All right? It will convert it on the fly. So the government has gotten smart, and I will guarantee you what they're going to do is they're not going to go after the individuals crypto, because it's way too much work. They'll go to your major credit card processors because they're making it easier for them to allow people to use their cryptocurrencies. They'll go to them. They are can easily look and see how many crypto transactions were conducted at those establishments, and then they will just simply tax them instead of going at the individuals. They're going to just simply tax them because that allows them, the government, to still get their pound of flesh. All right? Still get their pound of flesh. All right. So as the world moves more and more towards digital currencies, how can you position yourself to take advantage of it? Anybody here would be interested in knowing how you can position yourself to take advantage of that so it can put some money in your pocket? All right. If you have a digital wallet where your crypto is at, that you can send money back and forth to anybody, because you're going to do it anyway. Send money back and forth to anybody, does it make sense that you would want to have a wallet that instead of Cash App or Zelle or Venmo or MetaMask making all the money on the gas fees, that you would get some of that money back on those gas fees as well? A lot of people are starting businesses and whatnot, and they're moving more towards being able to take crypto as transactions. So in this particular case, a person would actually be able to get the money that they're owed and receive a portion of the gas fees as well, and microtransactions that are going into your account every day. So, a company by the name of Moshka. Moshka came out with this idea that, hey, we're going to have a wallet, and what we're going to do is we're going to build a community. And we're going to give people a piece of that transaction. And the way we're going to build that community, we're going to leverage a direct sales technique to build a community, because the more people you have using that wallet, and I'm going to take you down a certain road here so you understand exactly what I'm saying. By you using that wallet, and here in the States, we're spoiled. We have your Cash Apps, we have your Venmo, right? We can transfer money easily. Outside of the U.S., however, they don't have it. So what we're seeing is a lot of people say in the Caribbean way, they're jumping on this thing left and right because they realize that they can have a wallet, that they can get people to pay them in that wallet. And when people pay them in that wallet, using that wallet, they get the money that they're owed for their businesses, restaurants, whatever. But instead of them having to pay a large transaction, they get a piece of that back as well. So this wallet has two things going on. A, it allows me to build an organization and receive a residual income from that organization. And it also allows me to profit from the transactions that occur within that organization as well. And here's where that becomes important. Anytime there is a crypto project, one of the things that gives that project value is if it has a utility attached. And that utility is something that people use, it serves a purpose, yada, yada, yada. The more members that they have, the more members in that ecosystem that is using that particular wallet, the more valuable it then becomes, because at some point what happens is they release their own coin. And if you're in to this thing and have been into it for a while, typically when they release that coin, the community has the ability to have first access to those coins. And those tokens, when they release those tokens, they're typically less than a half a penny. Once they totally release them and they get on exchanges, and the way to get on exchanges is to have a lot of wallets attached to that particular project. And that's when you'll see within the first 24 hours that hockey stick effect for those particular tokens. You can have tokens that I can tell you some personal experience. You can have tokens. I have a set of tokens that I paid a half a penny for. When that thing went public per se, those tokens went up 47 cents. And I had, at that point, about 200,000. They went at 47 cents. That allowed me to take out 30,000. And to get those 200,000, I think I invested like $1,000. That allowed me to take out $30,000 and then buy 10 nodes. Because what a node is, anytime there's a transaction out there someplace, it has to go through a node, and those nodes pay me every day without fail. If I don't do anything, I look at my MetaMask account every day, there's money deposited into that account. So with this project, I can foresee basically the exact same thing happening, because they're in the process of building that community so that when they do release that token, and it's far easier for them to get on the blockchain, on these exchanges, which will drive the value of that token up. When that happens, you can either keep the tokens or you can sell them. Smart thing to do is take out whatever you put in, maybe a little bit more, and ride it out. Because you're going to have, just like the stock market, you're going to have ebbs and flows. So let's talk about Moshka. Moshka allows you to build two streams of passive residual income for doing something one time. Doing it one time. One stream of residual income is going to be from inviting other people to come into the program. Typically, you come into the program one time, you pay one fee, you get your wallet, and you don't ever have to pay another fee. You get 3 people to do the same thing. And if you can, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you're one of these people that can get 3 people to do the same thing and build an organization, there has been more money made from direct sales than probably any other industry out there for the average person to get into these things, and you don't need to have a rocket science degree or a financial degree. You just need to have drive to make these things work. You just need to have drive to make these things work. So there's that portion of it. Then you also have, as your organization grows, you will get a piece of the transaction fees as people are moving money around, sending money here or there from henceforth, so that is 2 forms of residual income for doing the work one time. Doing the work one time. So what you see on the screen right now, this is my Moshka back office. You will see that on the one side you have the amount of cash that's in there. The thing about my Moshka back office, I can go in anytime I want and I can pull the money out, send it over to my MetaMask, and I can go spend it. See the community cooperative organization law. That is the microtransactions that happens every time somebody sends money, somebody receives money. I get a piece of the transaction fee, as will you get a piece of the transaction fee. So the way I look at this is, A, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is something that I do part-time, basically. Just spread the word about it. Because I know that A is coming. B is the time to get in front of it so that you can profit from it. And C, if you don't, you will wish that you did. Because it's not rocket science, and it's not that difficult to do. So Moshka makes it very simple and easy for you to capitalize on this digital wave that is coming. And I'm not one to attempt to complicate the process of simplicity. It's not that difficult. At the very least, just take a look at it, because it's coming and you're going to get swept up in it regardless. So it's better to be on the receiving side of it than on the paying side. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
What's the percentage you get on the transactions that people do that are underneath you?
I believe it's 2.5%, I believe.
2.5%,
I think
okay.
it's 2.5%. Yes, sir.
Right now, on a weekly average, what is this income providing to you personally? How much debt are you making off of it?
On a weekly average, it's making me probably about $150 a week, $160 a week.
Okay, that's going to be.
And that's with me not even really doing anything, to be quite honest with you, because I got so many other things going on. So this is one of those kind of things where if you do it right, fire and forget. You get in, get your 3 people, help them get their 3 people, so forth and so on. And we've created a marketing system that makes it easy for you to do that by just basically giving somebody a QR code and sending them to a website where there's a full presentation video, so you don't have to explain.
How much does it cost to get into this?
There are 2 options. Option number 1 is a one-time $125. And option number 2 is a one-time $425. The difference between the 2 is at the $425 level, you just do the same amount of work, you just make 3 times the money. But I will tell you, from my standpoint, I am more excited about the long-term transaction fees than I am about the initial money that you get from bringing people in. Because what's going to happen is, as more people adopt and get used to using the blockchain and using things like Cash App, like Venmo, there's going to be an aha moment where people are like, okay, I'm doing the same thing over here in Cash App and Venmo. They're not paying me transaction fees. So why would I not use this platform that's actually going to pay me instead of me paying them?
Okay, so this is equivalent, you can pay money to somebody using this platform,
You can send money to somebody using this platform.
but they have to be on the same platform.
Right now, they have to be on the same platform. But
At the end of the month, Zelle is going away.
huh?
At the end of the month, Zelle is going away. My
Yeah.
bank called me and said, I gotta get on their online banking.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. At first, every
That's
person.
Bank of America's Zelle.
And Zelle.
Zelle across the board.
Wow.
And see, Zelle's model was not so much that Zelle charged you the transaction. Zelle was charging the financial institution the transaction.
And they didn't like that.
Yeah, there you go. They ain't like that at all. But Zelle made, I mean, in that, Zelle made a gazillion bucks, I mean, trillions of bucks doing it. But yeah, they didn't like that at all.
Were they
when
caught in,
charged
were
you.
they caught in fraud and that's why they're going away?
No,
Okay.
no. It boiled down to who was actually paying the transaction. That's what it boiled down to.
Okay. Here's my next question. You need 3 people basically that you want to get signed up underneath you. The 3 that you get, whenever they use Moshe, you'll get but it had to be, now when they get other people, does it trickle down all the way from that time on that you get a percentage of the transaction fees?
Yeah, because they're going to be in your organization.
All the people from that, so it's critical to be at the beginning, so you get the trickle down effect on all of them.
Yeah, it pays down 10 levels.
Those 10 levels
Those 10 levels.
with 2 legs, right?
Well, there's no limit to the number of people that you can actually bring in, but they break it down to 3 because the average person brings in 2.7 people in any MLM type organization, even though it's not MLM. They were smart about it because looking around the room, I'm pretty sure most of you here would remember MCI. Remember MCI?
I sure do.
Okay, so MCI comes on the scene, and your other big telecommunications companies, they weren't concerned with MCI because MCI was a small startup. But MCI released this program called Friends and Family. So if I'm going to talk on the phone, I'm going to talk to Brother Dice over here on the phone, I'm going to talk to you on the phone, and we might not be in same location, or my military buddies who are all over the place, and we talk all the time. All right? Well, if I'm going to be talking to you and I get you to use it, same service, I get something back. And before they knew it, by years in, this little small company that they didn't pay any attention to, through Friends and Family, by the end of the year, they had basically sucked up 25% of the market share.
They became number 2 behind AT&T.
Yes, they did. And they did it all using Friends and Family, which at its core was a straightforward referral program. So,
And then they had the guy named Bernie with WorldCom that, remember, he bought him out, and then he just did a bad thing. He's still in prison, by the way.
greed is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
So that formula definitely works. Elon Musk did the same thing with PayPal. A lot of people think he made all his money from Tesla and other things. No, he started out and made his money on PayPal. And PayPal got big because they had a referral program where they paid out $20 if you brought somebody on to use the platform. So the formula definitely works. But for myself personally, I look at it long term, more those transactions. Because people are going to send money back and forth. There's no two ways about it.
Now, you get 2.5 residual. What's the total charge, for example, to do a transaction? If somebody gets a commission basically on the residual, what's a typical transaction fee to the one that's going to be buying some or transferring something?
Well, knowing the blockchain, that's really difficult.
Okay.
Because on the blockchain, it depends on what time of day, it depends on how big the transaction, excuse me, a few different things will decide.
Yeah, like right now, whenever I do like a Bitcoin, I can pay for immediate transfer or normal, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you need it real bad, then you can always find someone out there and pay more to get it done like that, you know what I'm saying? So it'll be kind of working like that.
Exactly. Good.
Right.
Because it is using the blockchain.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to add more and more cryptocurrencies
Absolutely.
that you can get residual income on? Because the bigger you get, you have more clout. Say, hey, you want our business? We got this many people, and we can grow your crypto business.
It's not, it's very easy to add additional currencies. That's just a matter of a smart contract.
Just to put it on your exchange or your wallet.
Right? It's very easy to do that, and then that opens them up to more transactions, more usage. But the way to get there so you have very wide acceptance is to have a large number of wallets already on that particular platform. And I know this works from another project that I work with. There's a project out there called MoveQuest. And what MoveQuest does is it takes your daily activities from your cell phone, walking, sleeping, exercising, whatever. It uses that data to basically mine MQT tokens. And you can then convert those MQT tokens to AVAX and then go spend them. So every day, when I get up, before I go to the gym, I'll hit the little tracking button. While I'm at the gym, it's tracking my walking, and I have my workout, and at the end of the day, I'll just convert it. So every day, that thing makes money. But when she initially put that token on the blockchain, utilizing that same strategy that I just talked about, having enough people on it, so all of those wallets got attached to it, that token went from like $8 up to $129 a token. So that particular token is down, I looked at it today, it's down to about $7 or $8 a token.
Everything's gone down on crypto now.
Yeah. Well, not only that, the thing about that token had a large, very large adoption outside of the U.S. as well. So when you get a token like that, it has a very large adoption outside of the U.S., and particularly a token that you're getting paid for things that you already do on a daily basis. Like I said, us here in the States, we're spoiled. Outside of the U.S., people are cashing that token out. Their daily earnings, cashing it out every day if they got like 10, 15 bucks. Because in a lot of places, 10, 15 bucks goes a long way. So you see those, and that will drive down the price. But it is consistent because that particular token probably does 20, 30 million bucks a day, just in liquidity going back and forth. But you got, a ton of small transactions. So I see this one kind of doing the same thing because of the necessity, A, of having a wallet. B, people outside of the U.S., because anytime it's on the blockchain, it's basically around the world. People outside of the U.S. getting involved in this thing. And the last time I talked to them, they had a couple of governments that were looking at using this wallet because the government wants to make money too when people make transactions.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in this country that, vendors can do this. But in other countries, they don't necessarily have any way to do a transaction on a credit card. You know what I'm saying? They have to go find a bank somewhere and go get money and bring it to the store. So that's what I've heard. Like in Africa, it's difficult. And that's why Africa would be a huge market.
It is a huge move. In Africa, they do most things on their cell phone. They have this little program called TickTick. Well, TickTick got shut off, right? So now they're looking for something else to do that will allow them to transfer money. My doctor, she's from Ghana. She saw it, she's like, go on it, because she sends money back to her family in Ghana constantly. Now she's got all of them, and they're sending money, and she's making money on the transaction fees.
Yeah.
And she sends people money. So, you know, like you said, for us here in the States, we're spoiled. Outside of the U.S., it is a huge market for things like this. And that's why you even have governments that are looking at moving everything that they do to crypto.
Right.
Because it kind of
Well,
balances.
the banks are even using crypto
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Let me ask you this. How many total, you know, for example, Bitcoin's 21 million total that they'll have for that particular, you know, crypto. What's the total amount that'll be issued for this? How many cryptos will be issued? Will it be unlimited, or will they have a certain amount?
They'll have a certain amount. I don't know what that number is, but they'll have a certain amount because supply and demand still works.
Yeah.
And it's going to drive up the price of that token.
Is it privately held or publicly held?
Right now it's privately held.
Okay. Do you have to pay reoccurring annual dues to remain a member?
If you get your 3 and they get their 3, no,
You're in.
you're in.
But you got to maintain your 3. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
You have a card, or how old are you?
Well, I'm here because of my buddy Nelson. So,
We can send
He
you.
can hook us up.
Yeah.
The reason, like I've been involved in MLM companies, I had my own, it was successful, and I didn't have enough money to buy the software at the time, because I had to pay for it all, not license it. And this was 20 years ago, it was $100,000 with this company. And rather than do that, I just shut the company down, because I didn't have $100,000 to buy my own software. So now this company's developed over time a marketing ability to whereby I can just get emails from people and send them the information so I don't have to spend all my time explaining. So what I loved about this aspect, not just the Mosca, the MetaMask wallet with the Mosca wallet, which then there's a coin, I guess, called Mosca, which actually hasn't even been created yet. This is almost pre-launch. So I just got involved because I can't afford to miss another train that's going by myself. And so what I liked about it was it was either $1.99 a month to allow me to send out automatic marketing to where this information. Like if you want the information, I have my own web page with my number, and I just plug in your phone number and or email address and hit the button, and out it goes. And his software company that he works for is the one that handles all that for the $1.99 a month. So to me, that's what I needed, because I don't have time to go out and spend all my life telling people about this one-on-one or one-on-100. It's just, I send it out. If they're interested, great. If they're not, then no big deal. That was what. So yes, I'll send that to you. And you know, I was able to market it already around the country just by virtue of people I know in various places. None of them have actually committed yet, and I was not in a hurry because it's almost pre-launch to where I don't want too many people right away because it's just not fully formed. It's like developing, but it's getting close. Am I correct in all that?
The ability to sign people up and to get paid, all of that is done. It's happening, you know, on a daily basis. The marketing system. So our company has a digital marketing platform. We call it
Unite, you said?
Ignite.
Ignite. Oh, yeah. Is that the same one that started they were doing electricity? Ignite? Different company, okay.
So this marketing platform is a digital marketing platform that allows people to basically market in. So what I did was I decided to leverage that platform because in-house I had them, I had our marketing team and our developers to develop an option that was $1.99, which goes to show we're not trying to make a ton of money off of it, but I wanted to make it easy for people to be able to market. So for this particular project, I went in and I created the landing pages, I created the emails and everything about it so that when somebody gets involved, there are like 4 steps for you to set it up, and then that gives you the ability to go out and then just share your QR code or your link that brings you back to a website that basically has a video that explains it in detail. Because it's got a lot of moving pieces to it, in particular for people that aren't really familiar with cryptocurrency, blockchain, but they know about it, know it's coming. Video explains the program itself, so that at that point, it has done all the work for you.
And I'd heard about wallets, especially with Darren and Glenn, and I don't have the time to learn it, so I just didn't do anything up until this. And the reason I like this is because of the fact that it's got the marketing plan with it already kind of redesigned, and the other is earning money from the transaction, like being the bank. Because I paid MasterCard and Visa fees all my life in business, and they never paid me anything, and I was paying. And so this made some sense to me. Over time, if the economy of scale gets large enough that enough people join in, and that remains to be seen. One question I have about this is the dilution aspect of other coins coming on the market, because there's nothing preventing anybody from creating another ecosystem. And then my second question is with Bitcoin, if somewhat related but not directly, why is the government buying Bitcoin if they're not going to be able to see it to tax it?
So, your first question about the delusion of it and adding other coins. Well, in reality, they're going to add up because that makes it more of an attractive wallet that you can send other
Forms of currency.
Yeah, other chains, whether it be Solana, Ethereum, BNB, whatever, right? So they're beyond a shadow of a doubt going to have other coins attached to it. And that's just that is just a matter of creating the smart contract to do it. And they could literally do that overnight, but it makes no sense to do that right now until they get through this drive of building up enough wallets to make those other coins and those other exchanges want to be a part of it. So that's thing one. When it comes to Bitcoin, they're smart, the government's smart enough to realize that Bitcoin ain't going away. People will say, it's not based on anything. Well, if you look at it like that, the dollar's not based on anything, right? However, the dollar has consistently lost value versus Bitcoin, which has consistently gained value. And it become more and more useful and more adopted versus looking at the decline of the dollar. So the government going in and buying up a ton of Bitcoin makes perfect sense, because here's what I always tell people about the government. Now, a little bit about my background. I went in the military and I spent 15 years, 1 month, 13 days, not that I was counting. I've been in the 82nd Airborne, I've been in 1st Special Forces, I've been on a bunch of specialized ops kind of things. And it always amazes me where people will be concerned about Area 51. Well, Area 51 ain't the one that you got to be concerned with. Because if you know anything about the military and the government, they do things sequentially and by nomenclature when they come to naming things, right? So what you need to be concerned about is areas 1 through 50. Don't worry about 51. Be concerned about areas 1 through 50, the ones that you don't know about. And what I mean by that is, we know that they set up this whole crypto, Bitcoin, yada, yada, yada. What we don't know is exactly how and why. They don't do anything without having a reason to do it, and have, in many cases, thought 10 or 15 steps ahead. So they know something. They're smart enough to know that something is coming. The dollar is in a decline. Something is coming. More and more people are moving towards digital currency. Fed now is coming, right? They say they're not doing digital whatever. Yes, you are doing it. That's the only reason you would be moving towards Fed now, and that's the only reason that you would really go buy up all this crypto. And they're looking at other cryptocurrencies as well, not just Bitcoin. So this begs the reason you might not know all the details of what's coming, but when you're walking through the jungle and certain things are out of place and you feel that you're about to get ambushed, guess what? Most likely you are about to get ambushed. And if you're not ready for it, it typically does not work out good for you. So I would prefer to be on the side of things that at least gives you a fighting chance.
So is all crypto, like spending, how many people use crypto to spend money today? Maybe in their normal transactions. I'm still using credit cards, I'm still using, that's pretty much it.
Well, I would say that really depends on where you're at in the world. Outside of the U.S., people use crypto all the time in the house. You can walk into a Miracle Cash exchange in Switzerland, basically, and it is a physical exchange where they will exchange your cash into crypto or vice versa. You can go online right now and probably buy a BMW with crypto. A lot of things that you can buy with crypto. You're starting to see more and more crypto ATM machines. And this is one of those kind of things where, while people are not paying attention to it, one day you wake up and it's there.
So the dollar is, if we're paying by virtue of inflation, using crypto, are we paying by virtue of the transaction fees? Like
Yes.
that's the cost, right?
There's a cost you use in the transaction.
So what does that look like in reality? Because I don't want to pay, right now some businesses say, well, if you want to use your credit card, you have to give me 3% or 2.5% to use your card. So we're really choosing to pay for that ability. So I'm just not there yet as far as using it on a daily basis, crypto. When would that happen?
You're going to start to see that happen probably within, I would say within the next 6 months. Here's why I say within the next 6 months. Most of your pay terminals, like if you're paying and they swipe your card, I think it's Indigo, I think is the one that is vastly used around the world. It's like 40 million of them. Cash flow just did a deal with them to basically be able to pay with crypto at the register using that processing system. And that particular processing system is used by a ton of people, different businesses. They might even have one. You see them at Tom Thumb, you see them at Walmart. It's a checkout. It's a checkout, that processing. That's one of the ways that they're getting people to use it and make it easy for people to use it. And it's going to be just like swiping. If you have one of these crypto credit cards, it's going to be just like swiping your card for anything else.
So is the cost to use crypto expensive at the moment?
It can be.
So you're gonna have to be careful or you get stumped.
Yeah, it can be expensive when you're swapping or you exchange. But when it comes to processing across a network, they're going to have to make it basically a standardized percentage, just like they do with credit card for that fee.
So at some point, Mosca will have a certain amount of customers or members, and therefore merchants will say, I think we want to make a way to let people use that in my business.
It will be another crypto that you could use when you're checking our process.
All right, well, thank you. Any more questions? One more? Go ahead, Ken.
Soloman, so if I understand this right, if somebody recruits 3 people, they recruit 3 people, then by the time you get 10 layers deep, that'd be 3 to the 10th power, about 60,000 people in your network. Right? And if each person is, let's say on average, they're spending $10,000 a year for this, then that'd be $600 million a year in your network, right? For each transaction. And then the revenue fee or income is 2.5%, right? So that'd be $18 million a year.
Let me make it more real world. The real world is none of these things, I've been doing this for 30 years, though none of these things work out perfect. They can always say, you do this, you do that, yada, yada, yada. And they never fill out perfect. But the reality of it is, you're gonna come across people who have a rough time getting to people. Then you're going to come across people who don't have a rough time getting anybody. You know, they got a network where they can just go out and get a ton of people. So if you boil it down to, in a perfect world, if you came in at 425, and in a perfect world, if everybody got their 3, in 10 weeks, you'd be making over $5 million a month. But it's gonna work out. But if you get close, maybe you only get 30 people total, and each one of them get 1 or 2, yada, yada, yada. You're still gonna make enough money to cover whatever your cost is. And quite honestly, in any of these type programs, that should be your goal. The more people you have help, the better off you're going to be, and the better off they're going to be. And there's really, quite honestly, there's really no real way to know exactly what a person will make. You know what they can make if it's a perfect world. It's never. I've been in programs where I've made, quick story. We got time?
Yeah.
So, I'm at Fort Lewis. I'm a Green Beret, I'm an E7, I'm getting scuba pay, Halo pay, hazardous duty pay, and a bunch of other things. Right? But I'm always gone. My mailbox in my bank account, because you get all this money, but you're never around to spend it because you're always employed somewhere. So, I mean, I'm stacking cash. But one of the guys, he's getting out, and he says to us, he continuing with me, he says, hey, I'm having a cookout, all right? I'm having a cookout at the house, and beer and burgers, and you guys should come over and check it out. Well, when you get a bunch of soldiers and you got beer and burgers versus the mess hall, guess where we're going to be hanging out at? We're going to be where the beer and burgers are, right? So we're sitting there, and he starts to tell us that he's getting out, and he's got a plan. He's starting his business. And it come to find out it was Amway. Now, the business strategy made perfect sense to me, and it really got my attention. But the problem was, like I said, I was at E7 living in the dorm on the compound, that soap would last a family of 4 for a month, would last me a lifetime. So, yeah, the product didn't make sense. So I met this other guy, and he had, and this is, you're talking early 90s, like 92 time. He has this thing, and they're prepaid calling cards. Now, the government military had a contract with MCI that every barracks had the MCI payphone at the end of it all. Back then, we didn't really have cell phones that we use like we do now. We had satellite phones, but that was given to us by the government so they could actually track us down. We could tell them we didn't get messages when we had an alert come across the bad boy. So these particular cards, you could recharge these cards for 15 cents a minute. Whereas the one in the barracks, the phone in the barracks was 25 cents a minute. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, this is the perfect product for the military. Why? Because everybody's here, but nobody's from here. But everybody want to call home. So I had a female friend of mine that worked at in and out processing at Fort Lewis. Meaning everybody came to Fort Lewis, they went through in and out processing. Everybody left Fort Lewis, went in and out processing. This particular company had a binary compensation plan. I was not interested at all in that binary compensation. What I was interested in is getting a card in everybody's hand that came into Fort Lewis and left Fort Lewis.
Hey,
So,
Robert, I'm on my way to go see the prosecutor. Y'all pressing me up.
Remember, don't agree to anything.
What?
Don't agree.
Y'all play that I'm running the show for them.
so I wanted to get a card in everybody's hand. So I cut a deal with her. I would give her a small percentage of what I earned if she gave people cards. So I gave her a stack of cards. So as it turned out, this particular program paid weekly. So my first additional check, just handing out those cards and her giving people cards was like $1,000. Now we're talking 92 time. So the owner of the company, he called me up and he's like, hey Mac, I noticed that you're not building an organization, you're just basically handing out cards. And I'm like, absolutely, I want nothing to do with building out a binary because, yeah, that ain't my thing. So she had a friend that was the NCOIC of in and out processing at Fort Bragg. So I cut the same deal with her. So everybody that came into Fort Bragg got a card, everybody left Fort Bragg got a card. Dude that owned the company, he called me up and he says, hey man, I'm just gonna send you a ton of cards. All branded to me, which worked out perfectly because I no longer had to pay for cards. Worked out perfectly to him because I opened up a vertical that he didn't even know existed, and it made more money for him to just give me cards. So now, like I said, I'm E7, school pay, payroll pay, hazardous duty pay. I'm getting paid weekly. Some of those checks that showed up in the mailbox, because then they would mail you checks, showed up in my mailbox 10, 15, 20K. And I'm talking weekly. So when my ETS rolled around, I had no inkling of staying in the military. My ETS rolled around, talked to my colonel, they signed a waiver, and I was able to actually get out of the military. But that goes back to, you don't ever really know what it can pay or what it will pay, but you have an idea of what it can pay. And for me, to get out at that point, yeah, that wasn't rocket science. I can make all this money doing this. I didn't have to get shot at, and I had been shot twice at that point. I didn't have to duck bullets. I had to do none of it, right? So I have a passion for this side of the business, and I always tell people, look, you can't make people promises as to what it will do. It is totally based on what you put into it. But what I can tell you is if you put enough into it, you will definitely get some things out of it. And with my buddy Nelson here, he can tell you that I come across all kinds of opportunity. But it's very seldom that I will actually get engaged in an opportunity unless it has some type of personal connection to it or something that I see a way to help other people. This project is definitely a way to help other people to get to that same point because it's going to happen with you or without you. So, like I said, I'd rather be on the with side than the without side.
Might have one or two more questions, but what my objective is, if anybody eventually participates, because of the design of the system that the company, not him, but whoever put it together, my objective would be to help whoever get their own people. Like if I come across somebody myself, then it'll be just like, I'll help your organization. Because the sooner we get a big clump of people together, the better everybody's going to win. He didn't mention the more obvious that will happen. He didn't mention the names that they gave the entry levels. The 125 is called an enterprise, and the 425 is called a citizen. So literally, to me, I'm kind of becoming a citizen of this country per se, or this nation. Have it back? It's different? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
125 is the citizen.
Okay, the citizen and an enterprise. Okay, so a citizen is just participating, and an enterprise is creating enterprise. So, any final questions before we break, and then I'll just be speaking.
Will there be a breakdown of all of the commissions you receive on the residuals, you know, when people use it? You'll get accountability.
Yeah, you can look, there's a tab in your back office that says transactions. And you click on that tab and it'll show you all the transactions.
Also, is it owned by one person that owns the business?
It's 3.
3. Okay. And that, can we look them up on the internet? See? Okay.
I have a question. Have you heard from any of your airborne friends at Fort Bragg that they're training to do an invasion of Panama?
No.
Would they be allowed to say anything anyway?
They would not be allowed, but realize the mission and goal of the 82nd Airborne is to be anywhere in the world in 18 hours. Right? When the first Noriega thing kicked off in Panama, the day before I was, in the team room chilling. Next thing I know, I'm jumping into Panama, okay? So sometimes you know, but in a unit like that, you're always ready. Somebody's always on the yard. So you don't know where you're going, but you'll just end up there. Grenada was the same way. Grenada was by far one of the coolest missions that made me totally respect the Air Force. So we're flying into Grenada, you're jumping in at 500 feet. Trying to get under the ADA and yada, yada, yada. So you're jumping in at 500 feet. And you could literally hear the rounds hitting the outside of the aircraft. C-141, like, ting, ting, you hear it. Air Force pilot comes over the PA system. This is, to this day, the coolest guy I've ever heard come over the PA system. And he says, and I quote, "It is hot and steamy outside with light brown fire. We're going to call some A-10s in and clear that right up." Cool as a cucumber, right? Dude calls him in, boom. Then we jump out of the plane at 500 feet, and next thing you know, it's on the ground. So yeah, that is their mission. Anywhere in the world, wheels up, 18 hours.
Yes, that's cool.
Well, like I saw some video or something that the power went out the other day in Panama and in an area, and the word on the street where the Americans were invading. And then I don't know, the dude said something about their training for it at Fort Bragg right now.
They got shell shots in from the last time. We told them to do something, and they didn't quite want to do it. And we went in and flipped them upside down. You're always training for something like that. And Jungle Expert School is at Fort Sherman in Canada. So it could easily be disguised as we're rolling in another battalion. Starts at school and jump them out on the platoon TV and call it a day.
Yeah.
So put it past them. I don't put it
Well, China's building a bridge right there. I mean, China's right there. The UN has built a headquarters there.
Right there at the canal. And China's, what they do? Are they trying to
I mean,
overtake?
it's a pinch point, you know, it's a strategic at this point. you know.
Oh, it's critical to get the canal. We've got to have it.
Carter was an idiot to give it back to him.
I don't know why they would do that. You built the thing, why would you give it back to them?
Not only did he give it back to him, he paid him to take it. That was one of the stupidest things I've seen in a long time when he did that, from the standpoint of where it's located. Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been out of the service, and could they potentially recall you at any time?
I've been out since '97, and they could not do it. And here's why. I'm telling you exactly. When I was getting out, so what it boiled down to is at the time they had severance pay. And if you took severance pay, then they could call you back, and it's still valid to this day. They could call you back to complete 20 years of active federal service prior to age 65. So had I took that money, I would have definitely got called back. Okay? Because now I just turned 60, so I would still have another 5 years or whatnot after me not. And I remember telling my commander specifically, he says, so Mac, you're not taking any severance pay? I'm like, look, dude, I'm making more money now than I ever made doing what I was doing. And you always tell me I don't like to follow instructions. I'm a loner. I'm like, yeah. So imagine what my attitude is going to be if I'm making $30K a month and y'all call me back to make $70K. Imagine the attitude I'm going to have. So now I'm not taking it. So yeah, a lot of people got caught up in what they didn't realize was even in the second desert operation, the vast majority of people that went to that were reservists and whatnot that they called up because prior to they had basically slashed the army from 780,000 down to like 400,000 or something like that. So they called all those people back, gave them the ability to call back a force that was already trained and paid them half the money.
The man I knew, he got called back and he disappeared for 10 years. I felt bad for him. So, thank God, God bless America, right? And that's going to be the basis for the next 30 minutes or so to close the meeting. I'll talk about the Constitution, a couple new things
And
that
make an
came up.
announcement, anyone that wants more information, I can get their email, or I'll have their email.
Yeah, I mean, if
Send it out.
everyone wants, I can just send it to everyone through Darren, and then, you know, if you're interested, watch it, save it, you'll come back to it, you'll have it in your email, if you ever want to get involved, and, you know, that's the...
I'm also available for anybody that gets involved to help you.
And, right, I did want to mention, build the organization, I did want to mention that me not being savvy in the crypto world, Soloman was quite helpful in getting me connected and up and running and crypto literate enough to be able to understand what was going on. So he's offered to do that because I participate in his organization, so therefore we all help one another. So.
I have one more question.
Yes, Ken.
I'm picturing this network is 10 levels deep.
That's pretty.
If there's a transaction at the low level, and you're paying 2.5% at each of the 10, that'd be 25% of the transaction.
The way things work in a structure like that is there's a certain amount that gets allocated for
Any single
any single transaction. And then that can be divided up. So if somebody's way down at the bottom, what you would get is something minuscule. But if somebody's closer to the top, the upper levels, closer to you, then you're going to get more than
transaction fee is 2.5, and it's distributed out
Total, right?
total. Okay,
It's like a Visa fee, essentially.
yeah.
There's a bank fee, and Solomon's point is become the bank in the.
Right.
At least get
And
something.
the transaction fees, we don't know yet. That varies based on the transaction. Okay. But the commission residual is 2.5. Okay. Understand. Thank you very much.
Solomon's only 30 minutes here. Anybody ever has another group that, is not related to this, Solomon probably would be willing within 20 miles a here or so to come out and give a presentation. All right, thanks. Tell Jerry I said hi, please. Good. And then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then I'll finish up with the Constitution.
Yeah. Texans United for Texas.
Next.
Texans United for Texas.
Texas United.
Texans United for Texas. I'm basically going to talk about some principles that we've discovered over the last 5 years or so. And these principles are becoming crystallized as we continue to give each other feedback on the founding of our country, the fact that Great Britain, which was probably the world dominant, well, there was basically France, France, England, and Spain, or Great Britain and Spain. Those were the three main world empires that were competing for land, resources, peoples, control of trade, and so on. So I want to review the fact that this is my current understanding. I'm always open to correction. If anybody can ever find new information that clarifies what my current understanding is, please convey that to me. The 4 organic laws of this country, to repeat, are the Declaration of Independence, 1776, the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union, 1777, and they were finally ratified at the end by all parties, Maryland in 1781. I have my suspicions about why it took Maryland 4 years to say yes.
Could it be because it bordered District of Columbia and they were fighting over the land?
It's difficult to say. My current opinion is that a lot of what we experience today has been laid out decades, if not centuries ahead of time by the ruling families.
Okay, and it's Maryland.
Initially, Maryland was the name of that colony. It was the only Catholic colony. Where the capital stands today originally was called Rome, Maryland, R-O-M-E. It sits on 7 hills. And I believe that Maryland waited until everything was set behind the scenes till they said, okay, we'll go ahead and agree to the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. But we had been fighting the war. Not sure how much Maryland even got involved. I don't remember too many, skirmishes taking place in Maryland as far as the war, the Revolutionary War. It was quite a struggle. So the 3rd organic law is called the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, for the short title. In that, it discusses in section 14, clauses 1, 2, and 3, sections 1, 2, and 3, it discusses what life looks like as a free man on the lands that are not a state. Ohio was not a state. Illinois was not a state. Michigan was not a state. And it's pretty well agreed that all the territories after those 5 territories which became states, all of the other territories that became states throughout the history of this country used the protocols of the Northwest Ordinance. Now, the one thing that's different, what was for sure on the Northwest Ordinance land, those 5 states, northwest of the River Ohio, there could be no slavery in those. So I'm not exactly sure when the issue with Kansas and Nebraska and Nevada and California, the states had to vote. And I'm not sure exactly whether it was the legislatures or the people themselves, whether they would be a free state or a slave state. And some say that the Civil War was constructed by the Vatican and the King of England and the bankers in order to divide and conquer the nation. So after the Northwest Ordinance, that was agreed to 2.5 months prior to the Constitution being agreed upon. So what happened was in May of 1787, a group of people got together, delegates from various states off the record in Maryland, in Annapolis, Maryland, and they decided then to reconvene in Philadelphia, I believe in June or July, to correct the problems with having a national government that had some teeth. And that happened for that summer. They put together the Constitution, the Northwest Ordinance, and that became the 4th organic law. So the organic laws today, to this day, the organic law of my country is those documents.
And they all happened within probably 6 months of each other?
Well, no. Declaration of
I'm
Independence.
talking about the Northwest Ordinance, so
Within 3 months.
3 months, okay.
Those 2 were within
Except
3
for the
months.
other, yeah, except for the other one, yeah.
So in the process, I learned one of the proofs that there's some backroom deals going on is for the 10 years before 1787, all of the land where the Northwest Ordinance is, and all the way down to actually Alabama, the King of England had a deal, a treaty with the Indians not to fight them. They had a treaty. So the only way for the white man to take over the land west of the Appalachians was for the King of England to lose the war, because then he could say to the Indians, we're not responsible anymore to back this treaty up of protection and agreement. So they could stand back, meaning the British could stand back and then let the colonists expand westward past the Appalachians out to the Mississippi River. Who can tell me what empire, what world royalty crown controlled all the land, claimed all the land west of the Mississippi at the close of the war in 1783? So, Louis?
Los Franceses.
I'd say France. France, because you get the Louisiana Purchase.
France.
That's what I thought. I'm going to tell you. But before I do so, I'm going to tell you how it happened, how we learned this. My brother bought me a magazine that was Time magazine that talked about the 1783 situation, the Revolutionary War. And I opened up the book, and the map west of the Mississippi said Spain. Spain controlled all that property.
Well, we bought the Louisiana Purchase from France.
Okay, so now here's how, this is what brings me to the understanding of how my current understanding is we're being played by the bankers and by the royals, people who think that they, and many of them do control the world with their armies and so on. A friend of mine who claims to have some bloodline from the Spanish crown, which I kind of have done some research, and I can give him that. He explained to me that the way the Louisiana Purchase happened was that the royals over in England would marry amongst each other, cut deals, keep peace, those kind of things. So at some point between 1787, the founding of the Constitution being written, which by the way is called the Constitution of the United States. That is my Constitution, the original Constitution. Constitution of the United States of September of 1787. So what happened in the 1780s and early 90s? France, there was a revolution in France. And in the midst of that, Napoleon came to power and the Bourbon family was put out. And so in the process, there was a marriage between somebody who France began to get rights to the Louisiana Purchase area. And that was the basis upon which the Louisiana Purchase was sold in early 1800s, 1803, I believe. I think Jefferson was the president at the time. And the purpose is to basically do the Western expansion under the monarchies with the bankers and so on. And they just allow us to think we are kind of free.
Was it then acquired from Spain or France?
France. But it was because of
So
a
right
marriage.
there, right-
It was a marriage.
Yeah, it says the Queen, King,
A
marriage,
marriage
blah, blah, blah.
put it in
Yeah.
control of France.
Because
and that's-
remember Texas it was under France and then Spain.
Correct. I didn't know France was under Texas. I think it was. I
France,
remember
yeah,
that.
it-
France.
it
All of
controlled-
Texas? All
Yeah,
of
that's
Texas?
the Six Flags of Texas.
Okay. All right. That's good information. So the purpose of today, me chatting, is to basically just review the fact that we have more than one constitution. And in the last 2 or 3 weeks, some clarity has come to me to explain the difference between the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the United States of America. Some of you have heard me say this before, but when I was locked up in a mental institution because I refused to give a district court judge jurisdiction. How do you do, sir? Hey. I called the representative for the United States Congress from the payphone. It was a free call. They let us call anywhere in New Jersey for free, which was good, because it used to cost me a lot when I was in the county jail to call out. And I said to this secretary, please have the congressman send me the Constitution that he has the oath to. Fair question, right? He sent me this, the Constitution of the United States of America. The Declaration of Independence I have in my hand is Senate Document 116-3. That is my Constitution. I recommend you claim that one. And in this, in Article 3, it says that the judicial power of the United States shall extend to all controversies to which the United States shall be a party. So when a local law enforcement who's under the United States flag violates your rights, the way to correct the matter is by using the Constitution of the United States, which is the original Constitution. So I'm there and I'm going through the whole Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the United States. How many was I ever taught in grammar school, grade school, junior high or high school in history that there was more than one Constitution? No. Guess what? There is. So what is the relationship to the lack of freedom we seem to have on these lands and the fact there's two constitutions? Let's go to the gold fringe flag. When a flag is captured by a ship or another nation, the capturing nation goes ahead and places a fringe around that flag. That explains that one nation has now infringed on the other. It also relates to a contract or a constitution that has been broken. So when I'm in a courtroom and there's a gold fringe flag in the corner, they're telling me what you think is a contract that you have with us is not true. You don't have that contract. It's been broken. And they're telegraphing that by virtue of the flag that's flying. So how do we defeat that? We defeat that by understanding that the contract called the Constitution of the United States of America is a corporation contract. It was formed in 1871. It's owned by who knows who. It's probably financed by private bankers. And it is enforced by the bar associations based in London and then expanding out into the Americas, all the way from North America down to South America. All this happened, the lockup came about 1940s, right, with the UN. That's when they began to fictionalize almost everyone. And when our liberties are taken from us by virtue of a traffic stop or by virtue of a taking of life, liberty, or property through our time and our freedom, the system is using the corporate contract to do it. They are using the fictional name that we have been entrapped by. So the key is going to be what's the quickest way out of this mess?
A traffic stop?
Any situation that deals with a governmental agency.
What's the emergency?
What's
the
that?
emergency?
What do you mean?
Well, because they can't pull you over unless there's an emergency.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, they can, and they
Not
will.
lawfully.
Okay, but you know why it's lawful? Why is it? It's actually legal. Why is it legal? Most law enforcement don't know why this happens. They just know it works. And they know they'll be backed up by the bar, they'll be backed up by the judges, they'll be backed up by the prosecutors, they'll be backed up by all of the government agencies.
Because they assume you're fiction.
I don't know what they assume. I think that they have redefined me as a fictional entity, a legal entity. That legal entity has no rights. People keep saying, I was arrested, I was ticketed. No, our name was ticketed, our name was arrested. So how do we defeat the what we consider to be un-American activity? Just because we're on the land of America doesn't mean it's a legitimately American activity. So in the Constitution of the United States of America, the corporate Constitution, Article 3 says that the judicial power of the United States shall extend to all controversies to which the United States will be a party. What's the difference between shall be a party and will be a party? Any thoughts?
I think shall implies it's ordered, so it is.
It's ordered? Right. So if we created the United States of D.C., right? We created the government, and we, the people, are supposed to have this authority over the government, then yes, that's my Constitution, the one that says the United States shall be a party. That means when I'm violated as a man, not as a legal fiction, I can use this Constitution. Now, sadly, the judges use this Constitution, same words, this Constitution. So they're taking Ken through the, raking him over the coals, using this Constitution. And Ken says, but this is the one I grew up loving, and the guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is guaranteed by this.
They don't even use that Constitution in Ken's case.
Yeah.
It's totally, there's nothing that they would even
Well,
use in that.
no, they do, because listen, here's how they do it. This Constitution, the corporate Constitution, says in Article 6, this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land. It still says the very same words. But if you go back to the judicial power, you're in a courtroom, there's judges there, correct? The judicial power of the United States shall extend to all controversies to which the United States will be a party. The judicial is saying, we're not going to be a party to this. We're our own private association, and we're going to make up statutes and apply them to this fictional name. And see, his soles of his feet at the time were not on the land. He was in a boat, essentially.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but they still have codes that they don't even follow for the fiction.
That's because they don't have to.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. They don't follow anything.
They don't have to. Why?
For whatever reason, they just don't.
The reason is because it's greed, and there's money being generated by taking our body and taking the liberty, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
But the question is, you said they follow that Constitution.
They do.
No, they don't follow that either.
No, they do follow it because they're not willing to follow it. It says to the judicial power of the United States shall extend to all cases to which the United States, think gold fringe flag, will be a party. They're saying we're not going to be a party to it. You think we are, but we're not. If you want to continue to live in that deception, then you're going to continue to go on this merry-go-round, never being able to exit until the solution.
Well, I agree that gold fringe flag, if you can point that out to them.
Well, we're working on it right now as far as how to
Yeah.
explain. But the key to our freedom, instant freedom, an instant liability on behalf of a sworn officer of judicial or executive or legislative of the United States or of the several states is carrying your passport with you at all times. The reason for that is the passport defeats the presumption of maritime jurisdiction. The way I discovered this is I let the state of New Jersey, the city of Ocean City, the county of Cape May, which is different than Ocean City and Cape May County, and the state of New Jersey is different than New Jersey. I was being arrested and charged, and I began to look at the charging documents as I was sitting in lockup for month upon month upon month, refusing to grant jurisdiction. So they said, fine, you can sit there. You don't want to give us jurisdiction, you can sit there as long as you want. I was busy gathering intelligence on how to defeat and untie the fraud that was being perpetrated, not just on me, but on the whole, all the people. So it turns out that in their legal system, when something on a legal document is written in all capitalized letters, it's representing a dead entity, a legal entity, a maritime contract about cargo. Cargo cannot speak, cargo does not breathe. It's like flotsam and jetsam on a bobbing in the ocean. So when the officers put their lights on and pull over, it's they're cruising, looking for prey, but it's not living prey because they're really after the name. It's a dead entity. So until we can return ourselves to a living man, we're pretty much fighting an uphill battle. So the quickest way to defeat them, and I learned this after the fact, I've had a passport since my mid-20s. I didn't get one until I wanted to go on an overseas trip. What my parents could have told me had they known, and they would have had they known, is get a passport, and anytime anyone from the government, whether it's city, county, state, or national, this is your passport. The constitutions, both of these, both the corporate Constitution of the United States of America and the original de jure Constitution, says that, states that this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, notwithstanding anything, one second, Francine, shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So I hear a lot of people in Texas scream, Texas Constitution, Texas Constitution, Texas Constitution. They're violating it everywhere. It doesn't matter, because whichever Constitution those judges are in their minds using, you're either going to make them use the right Constitution, the original, as a man, or they're going to use the corporate Constitution and say, guess what? This tells me as a judge, I cannot withstand anything in the Constitution or laws of any state, including Texas. That's why they're doing it. And that's how they're getting away with it. So until such time as we make a federal case out of it, I claim you're going to lose. Anybody, me, anybody, we're all going to lose. They cannot grant a living judgment in our favor, because we're dead until such time we come out of the dead system. Okay. Questions or comments? Fran? Hold on one second.
I was going to read this.
Okay, on the passports. So when you identify yourself with passport, right? Whoever violates any safe conduct or passport duly obtained and issued under the authority of the United States shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 10 years. And this is 18 U.S. Code, subsection 1545, safe conduct violation.
Please reread the first word, and only the first.
Whoever,
Are you talking about safe conduct?
No, it doesn't say whoever.
It says whoever.
Stop right there.
that's everybody. Anybody that you-
Whoever. Why does it not say any person? Why? Because they're holding the man or woman responsible, who's the whoever. So what are they responsible for? Guess who does not have to give me safe conduct when I don't have a passport? That police officer. That's why they go ahead and falsely arrest you, falsely accuse you, and then just claim that the 14th Amendment qualified immunity is going to protect them and everybody else. That's how they do it, in my opinion. So how do we defeat it? Simplest way is get a passport and carry it. Now, why does the passport work? It's related to maritime jurisdiction
Safe passage.
and admiralty. Okay, so what is the Constitution? Either one, again, if they're using a corporate constitution, they can do it doesn't matter how they harm a man or a woman in their minds, because it's a dead entity. It's a legal entity. It's a fiction. I'm not a fiction. Whoever that is going to spend 10 years in jail is not a fiction. That's why they say whoever. But read that again. And think about the fact that they're coming at somebody not giving safe passage to someone or something. Someone, they could spend 10 years in jail.
Okay,
Something,
again, this is
they could
18
wait.
Code, subsection 1545, safe conduct violation. And so it says, whoever violates any safe conduct or passport duly obtained, let me read this right. Whoever violates any safe conduct or passport duly obtained and issued under the authority of the United States shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both.
How much
Not more than 10 years.
That's
It
the
could be,
person
yeah.
that's not giving you safe passage when you identify yourself with the passport.
And that is why Bob Baldwin, one of our friends, said that he just tested it. He was on the side of the road. He gave him a passport, no ticket. The gentleman in the cop car behind him pulled up and pulled to the right, turned off his emergency lights, and sat there for 10 or 15 minutes while Bob Baldwin just sat there to see what was going to happen. And eventually the police officer came to him and said, "Sir, you're free to go. No problems here, right?"
I think he said something about y'all weren't being detained, because on his
He's not being
passport,
detained.
it says, do not detain, do not question.
I think he's a 4, isn't he? Like a 4-star?
That's free star, he has a free star.
3. So
It-
that gives you some.
Well, any number of stars is on the passport card. They all basically admit you're a man. We have to treat you under this Constitution, not this Constitution. This Constitution. So we can scream all day long, "I want this Constitution, I want this Constitution," without evidence to the contrary. You might as well come upon some Nazis that said papers. No papers? On the train to Auschwitz.
So you think if you had your passport with you in court that said that you arrived for a pre-trial and you show them a passport, that they'll drop the case?
It could be. I've never tested it that way because I've dealt with things a little bit different. And this passport actually, it's expired. I've been waiting to possibly get a super duper passport. I'm waiting for a friend of mine to see if his comes in as an ambassador before I make my move. But I could get even a 3-star. but my understanding is a 3-star passport is good for international jurisdiction. A 4 and a 5-star passport is for people who are born on these lands of one of the states, Missouri in your case, Pennsylvania in my case, California. Where were you born, Jason?
Texas.
Well, Lucy has 3 stars on her card.
Right, and I think when her husband was alive, there might have been a way to go. I've seen somebody who married a woman from the state of Georgia overseas. He had a 4-star, and she got a 4-star. So I'm not exactly sure. It really doesn't matter, per se. But the 5-star, to me, has some added potential benefit. Not that I even would carry a pistol, but if I wanted to, my understanding is it's a lifetime. You do not detain. You can carry without a permit.
Do you have to go through TSA if you're a 5-star?
Not my...
No, you don't have to even go through TSA. You got it. You got the card. You're supposed to go right through. You don't have to go through.
Right. Because basically, we're the ones that created, we the people created the nation. Okay, so let me explain.
Hey, Bob, Bill's got a question.
Okay, hold on, please.
I'm just wondering about the driver's license.
Is the driver's license required to drive a car?
I don't know.
To drive a car, yes. To travel, no. Our understanding is, if someone carries passengers or freight for hire, yes.
That's a commercial driver's license.
All driver's licenses are commercial.
Well, but they do have a different class, they call it.
Well, that's only because it's a different vehicle that you're carrying more passengers you're responsible for. My understanding is every driver's license is a commercial license.
Okay.
We are carrying passengers or freight for hire. When they say, give us your license, they're saying, we caught you driving passengers or freight for hire and you're under our statutes. But if you just carry your passport, you don't need a driver's license. If you carry your passport, that's your safe conduct, your safe travel passport, okay? Why is it a port? Why are we talking about passing the port when we're walking around the lands of America? The reason is found in the Constitution. People should study the Constitution. I never really bothered because it didn't seem to make a difference one way or the other to how I was treated in the society. But let me read to you what I discovered in this Constitution. Article 3 is the judicial clause, and it states, the judicial power of the United States shall extend to all cases, not controversies, all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. How is the United States gold fringe flag attacking me in a municipal court? Where is their jurisdiction coming from if the United States shall extend, the judicial power shall extend to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction? When they write up a ticket, it's in all caps. That means they're telling us it's maritime jurisdiction. It's maritime. How's that possible? It's possible because of the way that they've defined us through this is worldwide. The birth certificate situation is worldwide. This is how the bankers have restricted people's freedoms. So I was in the jail, and I'm studying admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, and I came upon a case in New Jersey, interestingly enough, off the shoreline. There was a fight on a ship. One guy struck another guy in the skull with a club. They were fighting. The man that was struck was taken onto land. He lingered about 30 days before he passed away. So we had two jurisdictions fighting over who got to prosecute him. Was it New Jersey or was it the United States? Because the attack happened out on the ocean. And the Supreme Court in the late 1700s stated, because the man died on the land, New Jersey got to prosecute. It was not maritime or admiralty jurisdiction. Why would that be different today? What do they do to us today? Oh, if we don't get you under state prosecution, we're going to call the FBI and the Department of Justice and trump up some federal crimes on you. Even though whatever happened was on the land, it had nothing to do with alcohol, tobacco, firearms, right? How do they do it? Right here. The judicial power shall extend, of the United States, the gold fringe flag, shall extend to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. So these fake courts today, these corporate courts, are operating under maritime jurisdiction, and that's how they are obtaining what they believe to be true jurisdiction.
So it's interesting how they use the word case. So we know the all caps is the maximus, all right? But then they have a case against you that they're coming, with your case being all caps.
That's absolutely true. Some people mock, that's my conclusion. Right. They think I'm out there. But what happened in the process of me forcing the municipal, county, and state government dragging me through their system, guess what I noticed? The way that the name that I go by, the way they wrote it was different depending on where I was or where I was being taken. And that's how I learned about the fact that maritime jurisdiction is how they capture all people, regardless if it's a jaywalking ticket. Yes, sir.
May I say something?
Sure. Jaywalking ticket or murder, or all, that crime is initially prosecuted in maritime jurisdiction.
Give me your opinion. I was in jail, and they brought me some papers and said, sign here. And it was all caps. It was my name, but in all capital letters, which isn't my name. I said, that's not my name. That is not the name my parents gave me at the time of my nativity. And they said, sign them. I said, what are you going to do if I don't sign it? And the cop said, that room over there is 40 degrees. I'm going to put you in there with no blanket, no pillow, nothing. And in 3 days, if I say your name is Minnie Mouse, you'll sign it. So sign it. Is that under duress? What do you think?
Yeah.
No. The reason it's not under duress is because in their minds, they were communicating with a fiction. His lips were moving, but no sound was going back and forth. They could do whatever they wanted under legal principles. And we have done nothing to defeat their presumption because we've been miseducated, maleducated, and that's why a couple months ago, 3 months ago, I forced a trespassing warrant that was out for me. I forced the police of the local municipality to arrest me. I went to a city council meeting and said, there's 2 warrants out for my arrest. And the cop in the back called in. They already knew I had a warrant out, but the chief of police was trying to do the right thing, not exercising the warrant, because I would go dressed up in a costume, a prison costume, to go speak to my city council, almost as a way of communicating how ridiculous this whole thing is, of me being arrested for attending my church of choice that I'm a member, and rather than the government telling the corporate government telling the corporate church, you got to treat him fairly under your rules, that you're tax exempt. Instead, they got together and said, we're going to trump up felony charges. And they got a county prosecutor to say to the chief of police, this is what we can do to him next week. Arrest him for a felony, which is what they did. And when the man came up to me at an open forum on the boardwalk in Ocean City when I was attending a church service in public, it wasn't even our church was running the service, but it was a public service. He called me over, no one's going to be arrested, lied through their teeth. The lieutenant said, you're under arrest. I said, for what? He said, stalking. I said, do you have a warrant? I knew enough at that time. Do you have a warrant? He says, I've seen it. You know what that warrant ended up being? And somebody in government gave me that warrant. They didn't have to. I ordered all warrants for stalking for the last 5 years in this municipality. And about 5, 6 of them came back. One of them was the one that was related to the name that I have. And it was signed, a judge's name was signed by a sergeant. You could tell, I mean, I'm not even an expert in handwriting, but it was very clear. The sergeant signed the judge's name. And then when I was in jail the next morning, they brought me a warrant. They told me, I said, I'm not leaving till I see the warrant you brought me here by. They brought me an electronic warrant. I didn't get the real story for 6 months later. So somebody in government did the right thing. They leaked that to me. Because they could have just said there is none. I would have never known. So admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. Maritime jurisdiction is dead entities. Admiralty is what I think the day you go into federal court, you're entering admiralty jurisdiction, and they're bound to do the right thing. Not until.
What about that appellate court?
State appellate?
Yeah.
If I had $1,000 to bet, I'm going to bet they don't dismiss it. They don't have to follow the rules. Because Kenneth We May is the all caps name. They're prosecuting you in maritime jurisdiction where a dead thing has no rights.
But they walk a fine line. They walk a fine line between, violating your rights and letting the cat out of the bag.
Yes, and there's some people that say there's a hidden attitude among many police officers. I can't vouch for this, but the golden ticket is when they harm somebody to the point where they're fired for violating someone's rights, but they basically still get the pension. And that's their way out. And based on some of the reactions of some of the police officers, I think there might be some truth to it. I was watching a video of a man in Miami, Florida, a young man. He was African American. He was in a car, pulled over by I believe it was a county sheriff, a white guy. And the man put his window down, the traveler put his window down about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and he was telling the police officer, the sheriff, I'm not driving, I'm traveling, I don't have a license. And the white police officer asked one simple question: do you have a passport? And when that man said no, within a second, the baton was already in his hand. He immediately smashed the window and drug him out of the car. I think that this sheriff was communicating to we the people. He can't, to keep his pension, he can't tell us what's going on and tell us how to defeat the system.
They can, because they're constitutional. They have an oath to the Constitution. There's constitutional sheriffs and they have corporate sheriffs. They wear 2 hats.
Okay, and how do you get, okay, agreed. That man, the sheriff, gave the young man the opportunity to prove who he was. Did he know who he was? It wasn't up to the corporate sheriff, it wasn't up to the constitutional sheriff to get the corporate citizen to become a constitutional citizen.
I wonder why he arrested him.
Because he I forget what the violation was. He was under a statute. He had to. If the man doesn't, if you don't identify yourself, you, sir, are an enemy of the state. If you don't identify yourself as a citizen, a real citizen, but you want to be a corporate citizen and don't know how to admit the other to protect yourself, then the corporate or constitutional sheriff or police officer with the oath, he's only bound to support this Constitution. It's not his job. Some people would say this is not true.
It's really, he's bound to it.
He's bound to
The
what?
sheriff is. To keep the Constitution.
Okay.
He's not like a police officer.
Actually, they signed the exact
all
same. They
corporate.
signed the exact same
Well,
oath.
the sheriff has a different constitution they sign than a police officer.
Do they?
They do.
Okay.
And they're sworn in with the county
Oh, it's
officials.
3 o'clock. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want
We
to
have-
ask one last question.
Go ahead.
This is in line with what you're talking about. It has something to do with what happened the last couple of days. So, on U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, did he have judicial authority to order Trump's deportation planes to turn around and come back? Did he have authority, judicial authority to do that?
I don't know enough about it. I would
I
think
mean, it's all over the news,
because
so sure.
in the, well, I haven't been watching it. In the air, that's admiralty and maritime jurisdiction.
He's crossing state lines when you're flying
It's the
generally.
United States. So yes, probably. Now the question becomes, what has to happen? The answer is Congress has to change the law in order for the judicial system currently to say that executive has no authority to
The
do that.
Department of Justice would argue with you this morning that he did not.
Well, historically, Andrew Jackson was ordered by the court to do something, and he said the judicial, legislative, and executive branches are co-equal branches of government. He said the judge wrote the order, let him enforce it. I don't have to. I'm equal to him in every way. So, do the courts have authority? I don't think so. Who elected who? We, the people, elected our representatives, and at the upper levels, the courts aren't elected. So Andrew Jackson, in my opinion, was right.
And with the co-equal checks and balances, what branch would have the ability to eliminate the president from his position?
Congress.
Correct. We the people. And that's why I go to the city councils and the county commissioners, because eventually they have to wake up. And I'll just leave, for those that don't know, a city council, after me not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, because I complained every time that flag is the United States. If you put the flag of the United States of America up there, I'll stand up. After over a year, they just replaced it a month or two ago. In fact, I just ordered the invoice for the flag from the city clerk, and I just got it today. The invoice that shows how much they paid for the flag that has no gold fringe that's now flying in the city council. Now, I haven't gotten to the court yet. I'm getting there. I don't know how we're going to deal with that just yet. But all municipal courts are private courts. I happen to think all courts, including the current Supreme Court, is a private court. So we have to honor the 3 o'clock for this man here. So thank you. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed it.
And give today's date one more time.
Today is March 18th,
2025.
2025. Everyone have a good evening.